You are listening to the SDSU podcast presented by the East Village Times with your hosts Andre Hagberdian and Paul Garrison. Welcome, listeners, back to the SDSU podcast. I'm your host, Andre Hagberdian. We'll be joined shortly by my co-host, Paul Garrison. This is episode 115, our second one of the new year, 2024. Hopefully, you guys listened to and enjoyed episode 114, which was with JD Pollock, where we talked Aztec Hoops with the former director of player development at San Diego State. Definitely go back and listen to that if you did not, if you're a hoops guy. This one is back to football. A local kid, Jerry McClure, who played at Mater Dei Catholic High School, won back-to-back state championships in his junior and senior year, wide receiver, four-star guy, who signed to UCLA out of high school and redshirted at UCLA this past season and entered the transfer portal and was brought back by the new coaching staff, is transferring to San Diego State for the second semester of his freshman year. So he will be on campus and in classes and taking part in winter conditioning and spring camp starting next week. Our second interview in this episode is Verlaine Betofe, who was Jerry McClure's offensive coordinator at Mater Dei Catholic and is now the head coach at Mount Miguel High School. Coach V, as he is better known as around San Diego, offers a lot of insight into Jerry because he trained him starting in the 8th grade, obviously saw a lot of his high school success. And as you'll hear, Coach V went with Jerry to his official visit at San Diego State last weekend to accompany him. So that tells you how much trust and faith Jerry has in Coach V and how much Coach V thinks of Jerry to be part of that. So first up is Jerry. After Jerry's interview, we'll go into Coach V's interview. And then Paul and I will be back at the end to give you our thoughts on the interviews and where we hopefully can see San Diego State's recruiting, especially on the wide receiver front, improving under this new coaching staff. So let's get to it. Here's Jerry McClure. We want to welcome Jerry McClure, one of the newest Aztec commits out of the transfer portal to the podcast. How's your night going, Jerry?
It's going well. How's yours?
Doing very well, man.
Right.
It's better because we can talk to you.
Yeah.
So you entered the transfer portal last month after 1 year at UCLA. You know, if you could take us through your decision to enter the portal, what teams you were considering, and why ultimately San Diego State was the place that you wanted to be to continue your collegiate career.
I really entered the transfer portal just to find a better place personally for me and myself and what I want to do next later on in the future and next year as well. The season that I went through, it was a tough one, just everything twisting around, things going on and things happening. I felt like that I needed to find someplace new and find something different. It wasn't a bad experience I had at UCLA. Yeah. I just felt like for me in the future, I needed to be someplace else.
And, you know, obviously San Diego State is the place you chose. Why ultimately was that the place that was the best place for you to be?
The best place to be, I feel like for me, is one, it's home. So I know what it's like. I know the ins and outs. I trust it. But also the coaching staff that I talked to, which I had a chance to get to know them during my visit this past weekend. I felt that I could really trust them, and they told me that something's big going to be going on next year, and I really genuinely felt that that's what is going to happen.
You know, we're also trying to get get to know the new staff as well, just like you are, just like a lot of fans are. You know, from your visit, what was your interaction with Sean Lewis and the new coaching staff?
It was phenomenal. It was great. Just they're really lively people that you can click with right away, people that you can get used to, and it's just the energy that's really good. And I feel like in coaching and in coaching as well as personally, just getting to know them, that they're people that I can trust and I can get along with.
Love it, man. Take us back to your high school days a little bit, if you could. You talk about wanting to stay home and wanting that connection to it, man. Where was San Diego State, initially a couple years ago when you were thinking about, coming out of high school, and where was your recruitment of San Diego State there?
It was there. It wasn't really like it was like hardcore recruiting there. I feel like it was a hometown place where it was like a stable place where I could go and come back to, but it wasn't I wasn't really that much connected to him in the beginning, but except for one person there, and then it was just like I had a feeling like I don't know where they were, what they're doing, and also just the other schools I had a more of a connection with, I felt like, and why I did not go there coming out of high school.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Again, as Andre was saying, man, we're all still getting to know everybody. So I love the insight that you can bring for us. But Lanier Sampson, right? He's obviously the new wide receiver coach. What can you tell us about Coach Sampson?
He's a phenomenal guy. When I first talking on the phone with him and then meeting him in person, the energy never changed. It was always on. He was like Brighton. He's always happy, Brighton Day. Always want to get to know you, want to know what you like, what you didn't like. He's trying to figure you out just to know, like, when you have a receiving core, you want to have connection with the players so they can trust you. You can trust the coaches to get out there, be on the field, and do what your assignment is. And I felt like that's what he's really trying to do. And also off the field, he's just trying to be a genuine person, get to know you, have fun with you as well, and just be there for you. Be a coach and be a role model as well, I feel like.
So is this all happening quick? Are you going to be on the campus at the start of the semester just here in a couple weeks?
Yes, I will.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
So you're a wide receiver. Tell us a little bit about your game. What kind of wide receiver are you?
I would say starting from the beginning of college, I was more of just a straight wide receiver, straight with just run speed, fade balls, and everything. But going through on my experience at UCLA, just going through the college, it's really taught me that you just can't be straight speed. You got to have technique. You got to know the ins and outs of the ball, your quarterback, how to run routes. And I felt like I really gained a lot of knowledge and experience in running routes and reading the defenses as well.
Hmm.
you know, there's obviously a new offensive staff in and a new offense. The wide receiver room last year had a couple good players, but it had lost Jesse Matthews, it had lost Tyrell Shavers, it didn't have the depth. And in just a short period of time, let's say in the last month, they've kind of flipped that with yourself, with some of the other high school freshmen coming in, some of the other transfers that are coming in. They've kind of remade the wide receiver room. You got Makai Shaw and Balen Brooks that are still around. Um, what what do you make of the wide receiver room as you're entering it, the competition there, and what you guys could do uh, to be a strength next year?
Competition there is gonna be crazy. We're gonna compete against each other. See, I feel like everyone there is able to play, can play. It's just get a feeling of how going against each other can make us even greater as well. And I feel like this coming up year is gonna be wild. It's gonna be a great experience. It's gonna be a wonderful time to play, especially in the offense that I've heard about Coach Lewis and what he does with the ball, and especially him bringing in Coach Sampson, a great wide receiver coach that can really bring out the best in his players as well. And I feel like it's going to be an amazing year for us this coming up season.
So tell us more about them, man. What has the staff told you about the offense, about the way they want to utilize not only you but wide receivers, the passing game? Just, I mean, what was that conversation like on your official visit?
It was a great conversation. We didn't get too much depth into what the players are going to be like, but they just told me to expect great things coming out next year. Recently, just seeing from last year that the ball wasn't thrown as much or the wide receivers aren't utilized as much, but they said this coming up year, we're going to do both, be great on defense and be great on offense as well.
No, I think everybody who's listening to this, all Aztec Nation, man, I'm pretty excited about that answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just I think that's what people have been wanting to see. Um, just the utilization more. Um, but have you been to Snapdragon Stadium? And what do you feel like that means for, like the city? Because I think, obviously as a local guy, like you have a perspective on it that, anybody who's been here for a long time knows. So what do you, have you been to Snapdragon? What do you think of Snapdragon? And just what do you think that that place can mean for the community at large?
I've been to Snapdragon. I wasn't there when it was newly built. Of course, I was gone. I was at a different school, but when I came down, it was a great environment. The crowd was wild. The fans were amazing, and I felt like if what we expect to do or have us do, or what we think we're going to do next or coming up season, is going to be a great memory for us, and just make that stadium really well known and make a memory of it. Just keep that legacy living on and create one as well, the one it already has.
You played at Modern Day Catholic in Chula Vista. You mentioned you're a hometown kid. There's definitely a Modern Day Catholic theme to this signing class, right? Isaiah Buxton and Anthony McMillan signed on as high school seniors coming into the program. What can you say about those guys? I don't know how many years you guys you might have overlapped a couple of years. What can you say about getting to play with them again?
It's gonna be really fun, a great experience. They're my little brothers. Just I went to practice with them every day. They got me better. I got them better. I felt like I learned from them as well, and they learned from me. Just understanding that they can really trust me in the program as well. Seeing I'm there, they can have a feel of being comfortable there as well. But also playing with them, it was a great experience. Like they fixed what I needed help in during my season. It was just defensively, Buxton was there doing his thing as well as McMillan on the defensive side, but also offensive side, him running the ball in some of our games. He was like parallel to me, I would say. Like when he's up, I'm up. When I'm up, he's up. And this is just like a good connection that we both had, or all three had during our modern day season. And then they carried that on when I left. They still did their thing.
Now you were a wide receiver. Bucks was a corner. What were those one-on-one battles like in practice?
It was fun. I really never let him win that much. Couldn't let him get too. But it was a time. It was really good. I felt like I could teach him some things just later on against other guys that are really good wide receivers in my class and in his class as well. And I felt like he really learned a lot from me. But it was also a good. He was a really good player. Had sometimes he beat me, sometimes I beat him a lot of times, but we both got each other better, and I'm glad he made a good decision to go to SSU, and I did too.
I love it. It was kind of funny because, we had Anthony on the podcast multiple times. And one of the last times that he was on, um, we asked him about, because Isaiah was going to go to Arizona and then he decommitted from there. And Anthony said that he was telling him, like, yeah, you should consider San Diego State. And his response was, we'll see. So then when we had Isaiah on, you had just decommitted, and we had said, and it was completely turned around. And he said, Jerry was like, "We'll see," and it was the complete opposite of what he had said from when Anthony was talking to him about coming to Arizona. So I think it's a pretty cool thing, man. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's amazing.
yeah,
We had Coach Joyner on the podcast at the end of last year as well. He's now retired, obviously. But what can you
yeah.
say about playing for him at Modern Day Catholic?
It was a great experience. He was a coach that was a leader, but also he put his trust and faith in his players to win him championships, win him the games, and everything. We had a little bit of fun too. We had some hardships this my senior year in the beginning, but we really turned around at the end. He just told us we need to get back to ourselves, be the players that he knows we can be, and that really spoke to everybody on the team. And we went out and won another state championship.
So, are you old enough to appreciate how special back-to-back state titles is? Like when you look back at the legacy, and especially because like as a school, like you guys were building that up to those championships. Are you old enough to be able to appreciate how special that was? I mean, when you think about your legacy, or are you just too young, not removed about to be thinking about a legacy at modern day?
Removed about right now. I know it's an amazing opportunity and chance. What really how I was feeling was we just won another state championship. Let's see if we can do it again. was really a great chance and opportunity to do that twice. Was never expecting to do that, and then it was a lot. It was a lifetime thing. It's just I'm happy for it. I'm grateful for it, and I love to go back and see the field I used to play on.
One of the coaches who's been on the staff, Rashad Cook, was just named the head coach there. What could you tell us about Coach Cook?
Uh, he's a lively character. Every time I practice, I always have fun with him. When I went over to play defensive indies, it was always fun with him. He'll push you hard. He'll work you. He'll definitely expect the best out of you, but he also he'll care about you and understand how you feel. And I feel like if anybody would take that coaching job, he's the best person for it.
Now, you told us your story. You're a San Diego kid. You're a four-star wide receiver. You felt it was in your best interest to go to UCLA initially out of high school. After now you're back and coming to San Diego State. With this new coaching staff, obviously they've done really good work recruiting this local area. How do you feel like the program can connect to the San Diego community more so that people like yourselves, like other players, feel that that genuine connection to want to go to San Diego State out of high school?
I think it's once we show what we can do during practices, and then during into the new season, I feel like when we start doing that, they'll really start to understand that this is a team that can really do great things. Mostly San Diego kids, people that live here as well, understand that what they're talking about is really going to happen.
Um, Last set of questions. These are kind of non-football related questions where it gets Aztec Nation to get to know you a little bit better. You ready for these?
Yeah.
What's your favorite food?
Lasagna.
Okay,
Where do
I
you get
just
your lasagna at?
on it today.
Excuse me.
Where do you get your lasagna at?
My dad usually makes it with some stuff I really like, and then he just like his own
Oh,
special
like that.
line. Yeah.
So, okay, well, all right. So that was the answer. Like, why did you come to San Diego State? So I can have my dad lasagna every week.
Yeah.
Favorite movie or TV show?
Um, favorite movie. I'm not really sure about that one. Favorite TV show, I would say old Cartoon Network, like Johnny Test. Just always having fun, always doing adventures and stuff like that. He got his own dog that can talk. I feel like that was really fun for me.
Heck
Was
yeah.
that part of like the Adult Swim
Nah, it was during the
stuff?
day.
No,
Okay,
it was
got it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Favorite musical artist or group?
I would say Little Baby or artist or group. Or artist. I'd say Michael Jackson.
Nice. Can't
Great
complain with
answer.
that one.
Yeah.
No.
Favorite professional athlete?
Professional athlete. I would say for basketball, Kobe. For football, Jamar Chase. For track, Usain Bolt. And that would pretty much be it.
Why Jamar Chase?
I just feel like my game, I try and reflect my game after him, and I sort of have the same type of build as he does. And I feel like if any, like for me later on, if anybody I want to look up to, it would be Jamar.
Okay, I have to ask though, like, you're the first person who's thrown out a track star. Like we've been doing this for a couple of years now,
Yeah.
and no one's thrown out a track star. Um, how fast are you, man?
You'll see. See. See.
Great answer. I'm gonna say, man, that's a sneaky hint, man. That
First, first spring practice, Paul will have his little timer out there.
I will. I will.
Watch. Uh, what about when you're not playing football or working on your football game? What do you like to do? What's your favorite hobby?
I like to listen to music, hang out with friends, drive around, listen to music, doing that as well. Play video games. That's probably what I like to do the most, or just sleep or eat food.
There it is. Well, if you have homemade lasagna, I don't blame you. What video game you into?
I mostly play Fortnite with my friends, Call of Duty,
All right.
racing games a lot, Minecraft.
There you go.
Those games, yeah.
Well, so I play Call of Duty, man, and I just want to apologize because you know that guy who's sitting in the stairwell, and you're like, why are
Yeah.
you sitting here not actually playing the game? Sorry, bro. Sorry, bro. I'm the camper. I'm the camper. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just apologize as often as I can to you young people who can actually jump around and slide and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
I just sit there and I guard my door. You know what I mean? With my
Yeah.
proximity behind me. That's it.
Last one. What's your major going to be at SDSU? What are you looking to study?
I'm looking to study business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any particular kind of business? I'm just not sure yet.
Um,
You're young.
Business and communications.
All right. All
Yeah.
right. Well, listen, if this interview is any indication, man, you have a bright future in communications.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it, man. Just really
Thank
solid.
you.
And I know it's like, there's so much going on and it's a whirlwind and everybody stuff starting school coming up and all those things, man. So that you were able to carve out some time for us. Thank you. Actually, I want to do one more question if I could. National championship. What were your thoughts of that, man? I mean, that happened.
Um,
That was something.
it was really crazy. I thought Washington was gonna have it. That's who I was rooting for the most. In that when the score was 3-0, or not 3-0, but the score was close. It was 10, I
Yeah.
believe, 27 or something like that. I thought Washington was gonna go down the score. I felt like during the game they just couldn't get rolling, have momentum back and forth for Washington. I felt like that kind of messed them up a little bit, but it was really crazy. It's just wild just to watch that, and hopefully I could get there someday.
There
So
you
that
go.
is you.
Love it.
Yeah.
Jerry, again, congrats on your commitment. We look forward to
Thank you.
seeing you out in spring camp,
Appreciate it.
the fall season. Have a good night, man.
Thank you. You too.
Nice.
We want to welcome Coach Verlaine Betofe, otherwise known as Coach V, around San Diego to the podcast. How's your night going?
I'm going well. How's it going? Appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, thank you for the time. For those listening who may not be familiar with your name, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you impact young athletes?
Yeah, this is my 11th year coaching high school football. Been fortunate enough to be a part of five championship teams. I've won four state titles. I was the head coach. I got my first head coaching job this year at Mount Miguel High School. We won CIF for the first time in 63 years. They didn't have a winning season for 10 years, and we came and kind of turned the program around. I was at Mater Dei for the past 3 years before that. We won back-to-back state championships. I was at Madison from 2012 to 2016. We won two state championships during that time as well. So, I've been around and I also run an organization called Team Akasi. We've had a lot of the top athletes in San Diego the last, decade or so. So it's been a good journey so far.
So the year is 1960. John F. Kennedy is president. The minimum wage is $1. McDonald's hamburgers cost 15 cents. It's also the last time Mount Miguel won a San Diego section title before this season, before you got there. How special was it to make history in your first season there?
It was extremely special. The group of seniors that we had, I think they won like 11 games in 3 years. They didn't have much success there. So just kind of bringing that joy and excitement and, winning culture and just a change of, we changed the whole culture from, how we dressed, the expectations in the classroom, the expectations in the community and everything like that. So, it was just a joy and just, seeing these kids just thanking you and saying thank you for, making my football experience the best, my senior year the best. So, it was great. It was great.
TJ McKay is the name that Aztec fans will know, Aztec for life. What does TJ meant? He's obviously on your staff, but what has he meant to Mount Miguel, to you and your process as a coach?
Man, Coach TJ is one of my best friends in the world, man. He's one of the best, people I've ever met in my entire life. Coach TJ is the best, DB coach in San Diego. I think, he can coach at the collegiate level right now if he wanted to, but he just does so much for the kids. He has something special about him that the kids gravitate towards too. He does a great job just, on the field, being a mentor and just caring and loving the kids, man. So, Coach TJ is one of my best friends, and I'm blessed to have him as, my assistant head coach and also a guy on my staff, and also, my brother that I can count on for anything.
That's it, man. So what's the vision? What's the vision for Mount Miguel? What's next?
Man, the goal is to, to be the top program in San Diego, and the goal is eventually trying to play the top programs in LA. So, I never get into anything just to be, good at it. My goal is to be the best at it. So, year one, we got off to a really good start. Year two, we're gonna be a lot better than we were year one. We're just gonna keep building on this to the point where, we're one of the top programs in the state of California, and then hopefully nationally.
You're a San Diego kid. You played at Madison. You mentioned some of the various high schools in San Diego you coached at. The founder of Team McCossey. Why is San Diego football so important to you in helping develop that community?
Man, I think, I grew up in Southeast San Diego, which is the inner city out here. And part of the reason why I started Team Akasi was, when I grew up, there were so many of my friends in the area that were, really talented in sports and, just, academically, but, growing up in in the hood where it was gangs and, all
Mhm.
types of culture like that, we didn't really have no mentors or anyone that we looked up to. So, there was a group of like 18 of us, and only like two of us went on to play, college football, which I was one of them, and one of my coaches, Coach Long. So we seen so many kids with so much potential that just didn't have the right guidance or mentors or people that look like them that can kind of inspire them in a different way. So, that's why it means so much to me, because I think we got so much talent here in the city. And, I just want to help try to, kind of get the name out and, make us one of, the top areas in the country.
Where does the name Makasi come from? Is there a significance to that name?
Yes, it does. So I'm from Central Africa. I'm from Zaire, and the name means strong. So it has a
Okay.
little meaning to it. You know what I mean? I just feel like you got to stay strong through anything. So it has a really impactful meaning to it.
That's awesome. I've been wondering what that means. I think I've even asked a few people and nobody
Yeah,
nobody gave me the right. So I'm glad I came to the right person to ask that.
yeah,
Um, we had a chance to meet and talk to one of your former players, Jerry McClure, as
yes.
part of this episode. We want to ask you a little bit about him. When did you first meet Jerry and what makes him so special?
I met Jerry in the eighth grade. He was in middle school. I remember it was his first year ever playing football. They had him playing like DN and kicker. He didn't know what he was doing.
Uh-huh.
I mean, his dad came in contact with me. He's from Africa as well. So it was kind of a good little blend because we kind of got similar backgrounds. But met him in the eighth grade. I seen the potential in him. He just, didn't know what he was doing. So, I trained him, mentored him for some years. And then, he eventually went over to Mater Dei when I got there and his junior year. And he just blossomed. He has all the athletic ability in the world, as a great kid, listens, and I honestly believe if he keeps, developing, he has a chance to play on Sundays. I think he's that special.
Mm.
Was he a
Right.
good kicker?
Yeah, he can. Oh, yeah, he can punt, man. That dude. If you look at our state game, the last state game, man, the ball, the snap the ball like 20 feet in the air. He jumps up and gets it and punts it like 50 yard. And honestly, that was a game saving play for us to win the state game. So yeah, he can punt and he could kick.
For anybody who is listening, it's on Jerry's Huddle. So just go ahead and Google that, and he makes this one-handed
Yeah.
filthy, and you're like, wait, he's punting? Like it kind of comes out of nowhere, and he, yeah, it was nuts. But
If
in
we
that
have
interview,
anyone else there, they it goes over his head and they score and it's we don't win that game, so it was important.
unbelievable. Um, I think maybe the best part of our conversation with Jerry was when he was describing, his future, his past teammates, now future teammates, Anthony McMillan and Isaiah Buxton, um,
Yes.
calling them his little brothers, and making sure that we knew that in practice, he gave more to Isaiah than Isaiah gave to him.
Yeah.
But what kind of teammate is Jerry?
Man, Jerry's so when you first meet him, he's really quiet, what I mean? He's kind of reserved, but man, that dude is a character, man. Once you start to get to know him, man, this dude is dancing, having fun in practice and things like that. So he's a great teammate, man. All the kids loved him. All the he had a great relationship with all the kids. Jerry's extremely humble, and I think that's the biggest thing about him, and that's why his teammates really appreciate him. For as many offers that he had in high school, he never really acted a certain way. He didn't even want to post his offers. He was that type of kid where you know, I mean, he wasn't big on social media or anything. He just kind of wanted to do everything on a low. So, you know, he's just that type of kid.
I think the thing that jumps out about his huddle is that kid's fast. And
Oh, yeah.
then we're on the interview, and first one we always ask, who's your favorite professional athlete, and he's the first one to list Usain Bolt, and was like, "This is," and we said, "Okay, how fast are you?" And he wouldn't give us any hints. All he said was, "You'll have to see it, Snapdragon. You have to see it. You have to see." So I'll ask you, man, how fast is this guy?
What, in a 40?
So whatever, however you can tell us.
I would say if he had a legit trainer, if he trained for a combine, right? And you know, and did all that like the guys do in the NFL, I think he could run probably a 4.42.
Which is crazy. I mean, he's so young because I think that's the thing is that he's still going to get his man strength over the next couple of years. And wow,
Yeah, he's extremely powerful. If you see his legs, man, he got some tree trunks and he's really explosive and twitchy, man. For as big as he is, he can get in and out of his routes, you know, really good and stops on a dime. So and he has football speed too. Some guys got track speed, but his speed, he actually looks faster on a football field than he does on a track. So which is remarkable.
What's his ceiling as a player? You know, he said Jamar Chase is one of his favorite wide receivers, someone he looks up to, tries to pattern his game around. You know, what do you see him as being the best Jerry McClure wide receiver?
I told him I see Brandon Ayuk from the 49ers. You know what I mean? So that's the guy I've saw in him since Brandon Ayuk was at Arizona State. So I think they got a lot of similarities, you know, both really athletic, you know, long arms, you know, explosive, you know what I mean? But you can tell Brandon was a little raw. So Jerry's kind of the same way, but you know, that's who I see, you know, if he has a chance to go play on Sundays, that's the kind of receiver I see he is, you know, the Brandon Ayuk guy that can make some plays, get downfield, and do a couple of things like that.
Aside from Jerry, what other current or future Aztecs have you coached or trained?
Oh man, I have a list of them. So I've had Isaiah Buxton. I've had him since middle school. I've had
Mhm.
Anthony McMillan since middle school. I had Michael Shawcroft. He was part of my organization. I had Carson Baker. I've had Keenan Christian since he was a ninth grader. I had Rashad Scott. Lucky played for me too, Sutton. Darius De La Reyes, him as well. And those are just guys that play for me in Team Makasi that have been part of the organization. But I do the Makasi Bowl game as well. And I've had like, Trey White playing in, Cam Thomas, you know what I mean, a bunch of other dudes. So I've had a lot of, guys play, you know what I mean, or their relationship from Makasi to San Diego State.
I think one of the most exciting things this week was finding out Keenan Christian's coming back for his
Yes.
COVID year. What do you think he can do? Obviously he's a super fast guy, and last year he wasn't really put in those positions. Uh,
Exactly.
but what do you think he can be? This next season, his final season in college.
Man, I think he's gonna have a, tremendous year. I actually had a, conversation with Coach Lewis about it. You know, we had a great like 2 hour conversation a couple days ago. And, I just told him like, he's one of those guys where, he's a touch guy. You know what I mean? It's not, you don't have to run him 10, 12, 15 times, right? You just got to get him touches 10, 12 times a game. So, you just got to get him touches in all different types of ways so you can try to get him in space and just have guys try to, tackle him in space. So, I was his offensive coordinator when he was a freshman on a freshman team. Man, I'll never forget this dude had like 1,800 yards on like 65 carries for me and like 30 touchdowns. So he has all the ability. I just think with him is, someone just has to use his skill set in the right way. And I think he will be, I think he has a chance to, in this wide open spread offense where you got to cover all three, four receivers, and now you got to watch the back. I think he has a chance to have a huge year.
You just mentioned it, man. Next question, good lead in, but you had a pretty high profile tweet about that meeting with Sean Lewis. Um, could you tell us a little bit more about that conversation? How did it start? Like one who set it up, and what are some of the topics that the two of you spoke about?
So I was at I was at Jerry's recruiting trip. Like I said, Jerry's like, man, a second son to me, honestly, you know what I mean? So I have a really good relationship with him. So I went on a trip and, after the kids went with their host, all the parents went up just for, some drinks and, kind of have a little, parent time or whatever. So, I just went in a corner. We just, started, chopping it up and, all the parents and the coaches was talking to each other. And then me and Sean was just there for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, just chopping it up. We chopped it up about everything, family, basketball. He was from Chicago, and Michael Jordan's my favorite athlete. So he was telling me how, Michael Jordan, when he was young, picked him to go have like a little contest with him and stuff like that. We just talked about his time at Kent State, offensive philosophy, because I do a lot of, similar things he does. I'm a spread guy. I like to throw it. I like to go fast and things like that. So, man, it was a great conversation, man. We have so much in common, I mean, just from just from a head coach's standpoint and from like an offensive standpoint. So, we really hit it off that way, man. And he's a great guy. And after the conversation, I was like, man, he gets it. He gets it from every single angle. You know what I mean? And that's how you change your program is, you have to get it from every single angle. And that's what I did at Mount Miguel. And a lot of the things we were talking about is the things that I'm doing. And I was just like, yeah, man, we have a lot of similarities that way. So yeah, I know it's just a matter of time before he turns, San Diego State into I think it could be a powerhouse. I've always believed San Diego State has a chance to be a top, 10 to 12 program in the country, you know what I mean? So
Wow. Let's talk a little bit more about that because break some of that down. For those of you who did not see the tweet, part of it read, "Aztec football fans, you guys are in great hands." I was extremely impressed. He is young, energetic, and he gets it. Great hire. What does Sean Lewis get that makes him a great hire?
he understands the balance of the new generation, right? He understands the balance of like, look, kids have to know that you're willing to do for them so they can do for you as well. You know what I mean? Sometimes with a lot of coaches, it's like my way or the highway, or we're gonna do it this type of way. You know what I mean? He has his things that are non-negotiable, but he's also lenient on a lot of things that these kids now like to do. You know what I mean? So I think, as a coach, you got to understand this ain't 19 in the 1990s or early 2000 no more. This is a different generation of kids. And you got to understand, like, some of the things that they like as well. You know what I mean? So, he just gets it from every single aspect of like, the discipline, the structure, and also like, letting the kids, be themselves. You know what I mean? Like it's fine to be yourself as long as you do it, within the confines of, our team expectations. So yeah, I was really, really, really impressed. I mean, I left there like, oh man, this guy, State got him one. They got him one. And like I said, even if you watch him the first couple games at Colorado, like he lit it up, offensively. So, the issue with State to me has always been on the offensive side of the ball. No receivers ever wanted to come here because they ran 22 personnel all day or just, ran the ball and, the receivers were non-existent. But, he gets it trying to get the ball out, trying to make the game exciting, trying to throw the ball, trying to score as many points as possible, and just try to bring that brand of football back to San Diego State. So I'm extremely excited.
No, I think you could tell, man. See if you could help me with this one. So what I find fascinating, and we're all still learning, learning who he is and all that kind of stuff. But you have this Aztec fast. We're going to spread it out. But
Yeah.
but this guy's from Wisconsin, where they pounded the rock and strength and physicality and all of those kind of Barry Alvarez kind of stuff. Like that's his lineage. How do those two things kind of blend together in what he does?
No, I think his lineage is the Dino Babers, like the Syracuse and Bowling Green. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah. But he played it at Wisconsin.
yeah. He played there, but I think once he got with Dino Babers and that open spread offense that Dino ran, Dino had a lot of success doing it.
Mhm.
He was at Eastern Illinois as well with Dino Babers, and I think it kind of changes perspective on like,
Gotcha.
playing fast and playing in space. You know what I mean? The game of football now is about getting your athletes in space and making these guys try to tackle them in space. So I think that was what kind of changed his entire, mindset as far as like offensively, you know what I mean? So he's a true spread guy, true, play fast guy, try to, attack these guys vertical and make these guys, he's going to dictate the offense, the game with his offense instead of letting the defense dictate him. You know what I mean?
The topic of San Diego State recruiting San Diego he gets talked about a lot. Last month we had a roundtable episode with some of the high school coaches in San Diego talking about it.
Yeah.
And obviously there's a new staff that came in that's unfamiliar with San Diego, but you have Ryan Lindley still there, Demetrius Sumler. Those are two names that so many of the coaches have talked about doing such a good job with local recruiting. What is your experience with both of those guys and what they've been able to do? And the fact that they're still there, how much is that going to help Coach Lewis?
Man, Demetrius is my guy. We talk, maybe twice a week, and Ryan is my dog as well. We talk all the time as well. So those are two, guys I consider close friends of mine. They do a great job, man. For Ryan, he's an Aztec born guy. He's one of the best players to come out of here, best quarterbacks to come out of here. So he got a real stake in this because of him being an alumni and him being in the offense and coming back and coaching. And then, Demetrius as well, this was the, first opportunity he has had to coach college football, and he's took it and he's ran with it, and he's done an outstanding job in recruiting and developing, DB. So I think for those two guys, it means a lot to them, both being from San Diego and wanting to see San Diego succeed. So I think that's the biggest thing. So, they're both guys are really excited. Both guys are, just Demetrius told me like, hey man, you always talked about bringing receivers here. Now we got a guy that's going to throw that ball. So you better start bringing them receivers here. I was like, hey man, I've been waiting for this for 10 years with you guys. So yes, both guys do a great job, do a really good job.
So you tell us some names that are on Mount Miguel now, and that Aztec fans should be looking out for as potential recruits for SDSU over the next couple of years. I know you've got a wide receiver that's getting some national notoriety as well. So tell us about some of those guys.
Yeah, we got a freshman right now that's a phenom. His name is Delonte Williams. He's
Mm-hmm.
190, has around, 71 offers, Penn State, Nebraska, Washington. He's a stud, man. I think the best freshman in the county and one of the best freshmen in the state. We got another kid named AJ Logan that's, might be the best receiver in San Diego right now. This kid he's a stud. He was at San Ysidro's freshman year. I think he led the country for a while in punt return yards. He has huge hands. Man, in the entire season, he might have dropped 3 balls the entire year, including practice. He just, he's just one of those guys. And we got a young kid named Paris Vernon that's a sophomore. That's just, a lightning in a bottle. You just get him, we get him the ball all types of different ways at running back, slot, outside. In 9 games this year, he had over 900 yards receiving, like 300 yards rushing and like 18 touchdowns. So he has 2 Division I offers as well, and AJ has 5. And we got some young guys. We got a young guy named, Braylon Cardwell. He's a younger brother of Byron Cardwell. I don't know if you remember him. He went to Saints and went to Oregon, and then now it's at Cal. He's another kid, 6'2", 190, 195. Last year was really his first year playing football, but he has all the tools to be a high level recruit, and he has a Division I offer. We have a young kid named DJ Wilkins that's a sophomore, 6'3", 185, has all the talent in the world. We got a young, old lineman named Frank Fanua. That's USO that has a chance to be special as well. We have another one named Driston Williams. That's a sophomore as well that has a chance to be special. Running back named Zane Rodier, that's a sophomore. So we're really, really young, and another freshman named Dominic Lopez that has a chance as well to be really special. So we got some guys that are young that, I think with us, keep, rising, and these kids keep getting better and working. I think we have a chance for a few of these guys, one day to get recruited by San Diego State.
You mentioned sophomores, and it made me think we talked to Coach Joyner about a month or two ago, now retired Coach Joyner.
Yeah.
And he said he thought that this year's sophomore class in San Diego was arguably one of the best sophomore classes he had seen. And when their seniors could rival any senior class. Do you see that as well? And just across San Diego?
Yes, I agree. There's a lot of, I've been fortunate enough running Team Akasi. I had a few of these guys as eighth graders, and you can just see the talent, what I mean, from the jump. So I agree 100%, man. I do think the sophomore class and the freshman class is going to be the class that, we have maybe 40 to 50 guys go Division 1. I think there's that much talent in those younger classes, so it's exciting time with the new coach in San Diego State with these young kids coming up. So, I do think there's a lot of talent that's young right now in San Diego.
Awesome. Coach V, totally appreciate you taking the time talking to us a little bit about Jerry and a little bit about some of these other guys in San Diego. Definitely a wealth of knowledge here in this community. We appreciate everything you do for the community, and thanks for taking the time tonight.
Appreciate you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
Have a good night.
All right.
All right, Paul. We just got done talking to Jerry McClure and Coach V. He's a local kid coming back, play with some former teammates from Mater Dei. What do you make of the story, right? Like 1 year at UCLA with a new coaching staff coming in, the wanting to come back to San Diego and play for this coach and play for this offense definitely was a big factor in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the part of the whole like transfer portal conversation that I still am curious about is, who is attractive to whom, right? You saw Marcus Ratcliffe play at San Diego State as a true freshman, and now he's got the opportunity to go and play in the SEC at Texas A&M, something that wasn't available to him a year before, right? You get a guy like Jerry McClure, who, according to a couple of articles written about him by people who around the Bruins, the staff liked him, right? And I think one of the last times that we had heard about a transfer coming to San Diego State that like the staff did not want to lose. The last one I can remember is Cade Bennett. That was the staff said, hey, this is a guy that we would rather have on our team. And now fast forward, those predictions prove true. And so it's difficult to believe that Jerry McClure, after 1 year at UCLA, is not better than Jerry McClure coming out of high school, because they got the same eligibility minus the redshirt year, right? And I think that what's impressive about it is, like you said, a year ago, it's not really an option. It's not, I had one connection with somebody, he said, but, it just really wasn't fully there. And you have to believe it's because, they didn't pass the ball, and he wanted to be able to be featured in such a way. And obviously, I think that's what Coach V said when Demetrius Sumler tells him, all right, you've been telling us you're going to send some receivers. And he's like, man, I've been waiting for this for 10 years with you guys. Right. And so now here it is. And it's just, I mean, it's funny to talk about 10 years, and we're talking about 1 month, right? We're talking about 1 month since Sean Lewis has been hired. And like, it's already flipped where basically on faith, these young wide receivers are leaving really good opportunities to come be closer to home in Southern California and to come and play in this Aztec fast offense. And I just don't know any other word for it other than impressive. And truth be told, like I think I wanted to be more like, let's pump the brakes on like immediate impact. This is a G5. Let's allow a little bit of time, maybe that second year after he shows what they can do. But man, this guy is able to really convince people of his vision. And if nothing else, man, I mean, San Diego State is not in football, seemingly has not won an offseason in a long time. But there's zero question that for Aztec fans, they've won the offseason this year. And, with McClure, the good vibes just keep going. What do you think?
Yeah, I can remember last year looking at kind of recruiting for the class of 23. And looking at the San Diego guys, and you go, okay, Roderick Robinson, he's going to Georgia. Don't even think about him at San Diego State. And then I think it was Trey Edwards and McClure, who were
Right.
both modern day guys,
Yep.
who were 4 stars, who, like, I think they had offers from San Diego State, but like you never heard anything about
Right.
they're even in consideration. I don't even think they're in the top five. And you almost just said, oh, these guys aren't coming here. And then you move down to the next guys. And now, a year later, not only do they have McClure, but as you said, a 1 year better, wiser, smarter, developed. Um, so that has to be really exciting for the staff for sure. I mean, the makeover that the wide receiver room has done in this month is pretty massive. With McClure, Lewis Brown the fourth from Colorado State, Nate Bennett, Jay Sean Polk. I mean, speed, experience, route running. I think all that stuff. And you add that to Mekhi Shaw, Balaam Brooks, um, some of the other guys, and then the 2 freshmen coming in too. We haven't even talked about them. It's exciting. I think one of the things it's hard, like the speed, McClure's speed is something that I wasn't aware of as much, but to hear not just him talk about it, but to hear Coach V talk about it, track speed, because he's a big guy. Um,
Yeah.
but if he still has the speed, then and he can add that with it going up and getting the ball up high and getting back shoulder fades and things like that. That's a full repertoire right there that can be maximized in many different ways. So
Absolutely.
I love that fit.
Yeah, and I think that, going a couple things. I think the first thing is, I think what's been impressive about the way in which they've brought in wide receivers, and please correct me with my numbers, but I believe what, 4 returning guys from the wide
On
receiver,
scholarship,
4 on scholarship, correct? Yeah, there's some other walk-ons, and like a guy like Mikey Welsh should
right?
not be overlooked by any
Yeah.
stretch. But what they were able to do is they were able to get like guys who are older, and they were also able to fill in some of the ranks that, looking at it now. What year is Brown? I think he's a sophomore.
He's gonna be a junior.
He's going to be a junior. Okay,
So he
so
didn't red he didn't redshirt. He played as a true freshman and as a sophomore. So
okay,
uh, he's gonna be a junior. So he's got 2 years of eligibility left.
and then you have McClure with 4,
Mm.
and they got the guy from Portland State with 1. Who's a see? And then is there anybody else that I'm missing?
Jay Sean Polk, I think, just has
Deschamps
one
Pope, who
ball.
also has 1 as well, right? So I think you can see, I think you can see kind of that idea of saying like they don't have McClure is going to have to earn a spot,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of people around them, but they also have that opportunity to have that immediate help with that veteran stuff. But with the speed, I mean that's the thing that jumps out on his tape. Occasionally, he'll catch a bubble screen, and Coach V called him raw, and you can see some of that in it. But his speed is something else. I mean, I've rarely seen huddle tapes where like guys are legitimately 10 yards off of him because they just are like, we can't stay with him. The other thing I found so interesting is, you would see a safety, and the safety is, typically the best shorter player on the team. And the DB is locked in on the QB because they're trained to read and react. That's what they do at that level. Isaiah Buxton played that position. They moved him there, etc. And as the guy's backpedaling with his eyes still in the backfield, and like within like that, McClure is right next to him. And you could just tell that it was just like, he's not supposed to be here. This is not how normal human beings run at this level. And so I
Yeah.
think that just that speed, it just becomes a weapon. And they lost Josh Nicholson, who had that speed, but for all of that with Nicholson, I mean, there was very few times you saw that really developed in the game, and I think you were really excited about that potential for this upcoming year. But as Coach V says, like he's better at football in terms of speed than he is at track. And so anyway, it's really a tantalizing idea because you do look at the pieces that were there, and at wide receiver, depending on how Polk is with his injury, that he had at West Virginia. He would be the exception to this, but there just isn't that like burner deep threat kind of a guy. And suddenly a 6'2", 200-pound athlete with long arms who, if Coach V is right and he are as a red shirt freshman runs a 4.42, that's
Yeah.
just, Coach Lewis talks about attacking horizontally, making sure everything's that way, and then attacking vertically. And now you can see that with an athlete like that, that potential is there.
Yeah, and moving on to the Coach V portion, I think the most important question we asked was, where does the word Makasi come from? So I'm glad we got that finally
Absolutely.
answered.
Absolutely.
But him talking about just the San Diego athletes that he has trained, some of the names of guys like a Chris Olave that went to Ohio State, I think Rashid Shaheed, who's at New Orleans now in the NFL, along with Olave. Like,
Right.
those are guys that potentially could be in play for San Diego State. Like similar type of guys that no longer want to go to Ohio State or need to go to Ohio State to showcase themselves for the NFL. So that's exciting. And then third of all was just what he did at Mount Miguel this year. I mean, you wrote about it. We asked him, the last time Mount Miguel had won a section title was in the 60s, right? And for
60,
him
it's
to do
almost
it
in the
in 1
50s.
year, right? And he has a Team Makasi connection. So he's got a really good, it shows his recruiting abilities to be able to go to Mount Miguel, bring some guys that he trusts and who trusts them to come with him,
Yep.
and make that program into a winner immediately is very impressive. And we'll see what Mount Miguel can do next year and in the future. But they look like they could be a powerhouse with the Lincolns and the Granite Hills and the Carlsbads and Mater Dei and Cathedral and those potentially for several years.
I agree. I think that everything you just said is really good. And, that core group that, worked under Coach Joyner at Mater Dei for those state titles, so many of those coaches went on to Mount Miguel with Coach V. And the belief, obviously, that group had with them. And it's in my personal belief, I mean, there are bad coaches for sure, but I think there's a lot of really good coaches, and even coaches who don't succeed all the time are also good coaches as well, and they're putting in the work, and that's just sometimes how talent in the game works. But there had to be a lot of quality coaches to come through Mount Miguel since 1960, since Eisenhower was president. And I think for them to be able to win the section title, now they're going to move up a division, and he's still talking about it rolling. But one of the things that didn't quite piece together until you were just talking a second ago was, at one of the points, he was saying that he's always thought that San Diego State could be a top 10, top 12 program. And that's
that made me the eyes emoji, right?
Whoa, okay. That comment is only true if a guy like Olave would have potentially stayed home if they had a better passing offense.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Or an Akili Smith, or whatever those guys are who are some of that top local talent. And it's a real interesting it's really interesting because we've now had the opportunity to speak to different coaches, and all of these different coaches who practice with the top talent in the county every single day all say that San Diego State is under recruiting the top kids. And if anybody's going to have a conversation with those kids, it's the men that we've been able to speak to on this podcast. You know what I mean? Like for you and I to go and say, well, San Diego State should maybe circle the wagons a little bit and see if Julian Sand wants to come to San Diego State now that Nick Saban has retired. It's just we're pulling it out of places and stuff like that, right? But when Christian Chapman goes and says, look, San Diego State can recruit everybody. and they need to. Like, I think it has more weight. And I think when Coach V is saying the same thing, because he's the one having those conversations, he's the one going and saying, like, these guys are coming, hey, what do you about your process? Hey, coach, this is what I'm thinking of. I mean, you think that Jerry McClure did not talk to Coach V when he was a senior and he was about to and he left to UCLA? I mean,
Yeah.
McClure took Coach V on the visit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's just and his opinion is these kids would be more likely to stay. And then the question for you, with all of that said, um, how about his glowing remarks about Sean Lewis?
Yeah. I mean, everybody that has talked to Sean Lewis, including us in our limited capacity, has come away very impressed. I mean, it would be hard. I would be surprised if someone didn't have a 2 hour conversation with Coach Lewis and they didn't come away impressed. And because not just because he can talk a big game, but it comes across genuine, it comes across knowledgeable, it comes across passionate. Um, and so I would guess I wouldn't be necessarily that surprised, but coming from him that's seen so much football and is such a big offensive guy in the community, it means something. There's weight to that than me and you saying it or someone else
Mm-hmm.
saying it, right? That he has the knowledge and the credibility that other people might not have, and for him to say that, I think it's good. Ultimately, it's going to come down to what they do on the field,
Yeah.
how the offense does, how they utilize guys like Jerry, how they utilize guys like Keenan Christian, who's another guy Coach V has a history with. Um, but yeah, it would be hard for someone not to come away super impressed with Coach Lewis at this point. But it's the once the games there's still it's what 8 months away, 8.5 months before one game,
Yeah.
and there's going to be a lot of talk and there's going to be a lot of glowing reviews of Coach Lewis, deservedly so, especially what he's done recruiting wise. But ultimately, it's what happens during the games that's going to really matter to most people's minds about Coach Lewis.
I agree. Although I would say that the parts that I thought were interesting and I think were maybe a little bit more than just this is like the time and so like this is what's going to happen is for him to say like he gets the mindset of these young players and
Yeah,
how he allows them to be flexible on things they like to be flexible with. And it's hard not to, you can't keep coaching like it's 1990s or 2000s. It's difficult not to hear Brady Hoke as the reference there. I think it was a clear reference to that. And I think that's a great thing. And I think the other side of it is as far as Coach V, or fill in the blank, right? Fill in the blank from all the coaches that we've talked to, Jason Carter, etc. That if you and I are impressed with him and we think like, okay, this guy's a good coach or whatever, like we might soften a word in a story that we write. Woo, big bonus for Sean Lewis. You know what I mean? But if Coach V
mm-hmm.
has that belief, like some of these kids from Mount Miguel and some of these kids that he from Team McCossey are now going to be like, oh, okay, so this caring adult who is making me better at football thinks these guys can do the same thing. It's a gold mine. It's a gold mine. And I don't know Coach V very well at all. I mean, this is our conversation with him. But he doesn't strike me as somebody who is just going to be like, I'm going to just praise somebody to praise them for no reason.
Yeah,
That they got to be able to put in the work. And I will say, a lot of people can be very agreeable and can make a great first impression for 15 minutes, but you talk to somebody for a couple of hours, and like it's a different level of like who that person is. And so I think it's just again, it's another one of the growing movement of people who have been really excited about Sean Lewis's hire. So It's something else, man. But I think the overarching story is that on reputation of what he did at Kent State, what he did at Colorado, and his ability to sell his vision of Aztec Fast. Recruits who I don't think were paying very much would have paid very much attention to San Diego State in years past. Now seem to be coming to San Diego State in good number, and I think that's a pretty impressive thing to be able to do, because you can want to have whatever offense you have, but if you don't have the pieces to be able to do it, it's impossible.
Yeah, I mean, season tickets are on sale. I'm really curious to see how they do this year in terms of ticket sales, because
Mm-hmm.
we know they dropped, I think, from using rough numbers, from like 15,000 to 10,000 from year one to year two. And then the thought was that they were going to drop down to 5,000 without a coaching change, without something new, without a better product, whatever. But now they've got, not only do they make the coaching change, but they brought in more local kids. You know, when you bring in a San Diego guy, right, it's not just their dad, mom and dad and sister that come to games, right? They've got friends and relatives and all sorts of people that want to come. Those are extra, may not be season tickets, but they might be game tickets, right? So I think part of that is a big win as well, because you could even like, I know we joke that, to Sean Lewis, the hometown is Southern California, right? It's a little different than what we're used to, because
Sure.
hometown shows were San Diego County. Now it's like all of Southern California. But it's still close. It's still two
Very
hours.
close.
It's still very accessible for a family to drive down for a game and drive back in one day, right?
Right.
Um, and I get why he's doing that, is because, and I think that might have gotten some of these LA, like Lewis Brown is an LA kid, right? Brandon McElroy is an LA kid. These guys have all probably been talked about as like, you're coming back home. Yeah, you're playing in San Diego, but you're coming back home to Southern California. And I think that's worked really well. Um, at least in the first month that Sean Lewis has been here. And it's been a good marketing strategy for sure.
Yeah, and it's interesting how many people had viewed the impression of kind of build a wall around Southern California, and I'm honestly very, very curious. Um, I'm really curious. They just got a new director of player development, and so I don't and um, I'm blanking on his name. Should look it up. Um,
Sean Dillon.
Thank you. I think that's pretty exciting, only because he was with Scott Frost at UCF, excuse me, and also at Nebraska. And when I think of fast offenses, the UCF one especially is one that I think of. And so, like, if this guy was the recruiting guy who was identifying for the staff and helping to coordinate all of that for like that fast offense, it seems like a pretty good fit in terms of like the kinds of scouting that needs to be done to be able to fill in the pieces that Sean Lewis is looking for. So that seemed to be the connection, at least as I was reading his resume and his bio. Um,
National champions UCF, right?
oh, yes, absolutely, absolutely,
That
absolutely.
was hilarious.
That's great. Hey, listen, it's just as made up as the other thing that the other people were talking about. So why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's right. I wonder if, oh, dude, when we interview him, we have to ask him if he has a ring.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. We could you make sure you bring your UCF national championship
Yeah.
with you? Um, but no, I think so. I'm really curious to see is like when I went out to Texas for that state championship game, I contacted San Diego State and they said, hey, who's going to be there from the staff, because like this is I mean,
Yeah.
right when we got out, the first thing we saw was the Nebraska like van car thing that was all, what I mean, they were there. And that's just what, or at least the presence was there in some regard. Exactly all that stuff anyhow. And basically the response was like, we're trying to piece together the transfers and the 2024 class, and that's kind of all we're doing. And I think that what I understood that to mean is just like they're getting their feet from under them. They need to get this team set to be able to play well for this year. And then that strategy is going to unveil as it goes forward. But I'm really curious about, one, is this actually their full strategy? And they're really just going to be like, we're going to be in this, what he said at the press conference, a 3.5 hour drive from San Diego. And that's kind of our bubble. And that's where everybody's going to come from. If it's just by necessity, because they can offer something to all of these kids from LA, which is, on a bye week, we're going to give you 4 days to be off. And you know how you were stuck up in Fort Collins or up in Boulder and you had nothing to do for those 4 days? You can go stay at home with your family for 4 days. And like, what's the NIL price tag on that? You know what I mean? And it's true. Like you can go and do all those things with your family. That's real. Or if, he's going to then pivot and all of those, I don't even know the mid north roots and all that stuff where he was from, like they're going to start tapping back into that. They're going to start expanding. They said Texas was going to still be a priority, and you're going to start seeing more of that bigger net being cast. And so that's just something that I'm keeping an eye on for recruiting. But as you say, man, it seems to be working well.
Yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed our interviews with Jerry McClure and Coach V. Spring semester starts on the 16th, and winter conditioning of 8 weeks, and then spring camp, I think, starts March 12th, if I'm not mistaken, with a tentative date for the spring game of April 20th. I think I heard JD Wicker say that on the radio last week, but whatever that Saturday is around is either the 19th or 20th, which is a little later than what they did the last 2 years. So that's helpful. As always, we appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. We'll be back for some more football interviews next episode. As always, appreciate the subscriptions, likes, follows, shares, and we'll talk to you guys next time.